Hello, it's Steve Mills here, and welcome to the Results Mastery podcast. Whether you're watching on audio, I got that wrong, didn't I? Whether you're listening on audio or watching on video, welcome. It's great to have you here, and thank you very much for your time. One of the things I really appreciate in my work and in my community is the number of people who commit time to being here. And I really try my best to make sure that you get the best result from that time. Just to start with, and a total waste of time, what do you think to the new haircut? Those of you who are watching on video, it's a little bit severe, isn't it? But never mind, I think I got a little bit carried away. But anyway, it suits the nice weather that we get in at the moment. But anyway, I won't waste any more of your time. So today I want to talk to you about why your social media is a total and utter waste of time. Now, that might be a little bit of a controversial subject, and you may or may not agree with that, and you may or may not actually be experiencing that. But if you think about social media, what we've got here is an opportunity to A, get in front of people, B, build relationships with people, and C, turn those people into meetings and sales. That's why we're there. Let's make no mistake. These people who say, well, I don't expect to win business on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Twitter. Well, what are you there for then? That's why we do it. I can tell you one thing about me, and that is the day that I decide to retire, which won't be for many, many years, but the day that I decide to retire will be the day I close down most of my social media. I'll probably close down X or Twitter, as we've always called it. I'll close down or remove a lot of the people who are connected to me that are business contacts, and I'll just have a few contacts on Facebook, people that I know, people I used to play table tennis with, and so on. And I'll use it more from a social point of view. And probably similar with LinkedIn, although I might close that down as well completely. Um, and the reason for that is I use social media to win business. That's what it's there for. So you may be thinking, well, if my social media is not working, what is it that Steve and others, lots of other people are doing this as well. What are they doing that's different to what I'm doing? Well, the reason that most social media doesn't work, and should I say most business or small business social media doesn't work, is that it's based around posting. They say, when I ask what do you do in terms of social media in your marketing, they say, oh well, we post on there once a week or twice a week or every day, whatever it is they say. And the truth of the matter is two things really. Firstly, posting once a week or even once a day ain't really gonna do that much good. The chances of you posting once a week and getting a result, i.e., winning business, are almost, like a needle in a haystack. Take my social media, take my LinkedIn, and I'm connected to about 13,000 people on LinkedIn. And let's say I post on LinkedIn right now. How many of those people do you think will see my post? The answer to that is somewhere around about 200, 200, maybe 1,000 if I'm lucky, if I do a good post and it's at the right time and, a whole load of other factors. If I do something, maybe it's a little bit controversial, and it gets attention, then, I might even get 2,000. But generally speaking, it'll be two or 300 people. So what's happened to the other 12,800 people? Well, guess what? They're not actually on LinkedIn right now. They're busy working. They're on holiday. They're just looking at somebody else's LinkedIn post and not mine. And so what happens is, as we all know, we post and our post is there on people's profile, and then somebody else posts and it goes, "Phew," and somebody else posts and it goes douche. And by the time we get to the third or fourth douche, it's disappeared off the bottom of the page. So it's only probably going to be there, depending on how many people you're connected to, for sometimes a few seconds, normally a few minutes, rarely a few hours, and and that's the problem. So, if you're going to post, and I think you should, you need to think about posting. If you listen to some of the world's leading, you business, marketing, business growth experts, they'll all tell you, because I listen to them a lot. They'll all tell you need to post 10 to 20 times a day on social media. That's across the social media, not two times on LinkedIn, two on Facebook, two on Twitter, and so on. 10 to 20 times on LinkedIn, 10 to 20 times on Facebook, and so on and so forth. I remember thinking, God, I haven't got time for all that, Steve, and I do understand that. But what you could do is automate some of it, or you could automate all of it. You use a system like our hub, the Results Mastery Hub. If you want to know about that, talk to me and I'll tell you about it. But there are other systems out there as well that you might want to look at. But anyway, posting is only part of it. What does posting do? It gets you attention. It gets you known. And that's only the first step. You've got to get known, and we've got to get one of the biggest problems we've got as small businesses is overcoming obscurity. Nobody knows about us. When I say nobody, I mean not enough people, not nowhere near enough people. If you've got 1,000, if your target market, I don't know, is hotels in London, right? How many hotels are there in London? I got no idea. I'm going to say there's 10,000 hotels. No idea if that's anywhere near accurate. But let's say there's 10,000 hotels and you've got 1,000 people you're connected to. That means you can only market to 10% of your total market. The other 9,000 don't even ever hear from you. So we've got to, if you're looking at that as a target market, I've got to be trying to connect to more people, right? I need to go from 1,000 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5,000. That's now half the potential, and then get to 10,000. So I'm connected to all the people that I need to be connected to. So if that's the case, that's great, isn't it? We're now able to get a post out to all our target market. We've got to think about the quality of the post. Is it good enough? Are we using video? Are we being interesting? Are we driving traffic to our website? Because that's a real key performance indicator, isn't it? How many people go from your social media to your website every month? For me, it's about 1,000. About 1,000 people every month go to my website from my social media. That ain't bad, is it? When you compare that with Google advertising at, 20p or £2 a click, whatever it might be, and I'm getting that for nothing. That's not paid traffic, that's free traffic. Well, it's not actually free, it's hard work traffic because I put the work in. So, that's all really good. But let me tell you this, the real money is made by being personal. I don't mean being, too personal, like, trying to get off with people as some people do on social media. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about one-to-one communications, having personal communication. So let's say somebody called Fred contacts me or connects to me, or I ask Fred to connect, and Fred says yes. The question is, what happens then? Well, for me, in my social media, I send Fred a message. Hi, Fred. Thanks ever so much for connecting. It's great to be part of your LinkedIn team. That's it. Nothing. I'm not trying to sell him. It's too early. It's like walking up to people in the street going, Hi, I'm Steve. Would you marry me? No? Oh, all right. And I'll go and ask somebody else. That'd be ludicrous, wouldn't it? So we're going up to people all the time on social media who are total strangers saying, "Do you want to buy this?" And they go, "No, I don't. I've no interest in that at the moment, whatever that may be." We've got to warm them up. We've got to get them to know, like, and trust us. Those three words are probably the missing ingredient in 99% of all the marketing that I see. We've got to get people to know, like, trust. We've got to get people to know, like, and trust us, our products and services, and our business. And once you get that, sky's the limit. Look what Apple do. They're brilliant. They've got great products. I know, like, and trust their products. They're fantastic. I know, like, and trust the brand because, I just do. And I know, like, and trust their people when I go in an Apple shop because I know that they're not on commission and they're there to help and they're highly knowledgeable. They really do know their stuff. When you compare that with going in let's say, a normal shop to buy a phone or a piece of computer equipment, they're often very limited in terms of their knowledge compared with the Apple people. So, these things are really, really important and really, really essential for you to do. So we're going to start building these relationships. After that first message, what I'm going to do is I'm going to phone them up. Yeah, phone them up. You're doing the old-fashioned marketing in a very new media. This is not cold calling anybody. So I go back to Fred and I go, the following day, let's say, or maybe even that day, I'll say, "Hi, Fred, Steve Mills here. We connected yesterday on LinkedIn. I just thought I'd give you a quick call, see how you were, find out a little bit more about your business and tell you a little bit about mine. Is that okay?" And Fred, 9 out of 10 says, yeah, occasionally. Fred said, "Oh, I'm just about to go into a meeting, Steve. If you call back later this afternoon," and then I'll say, "Yeah, I'll call you at 3 o'clock. How's that?" And he'll say, "Yeah," or "No, 4 o'clock would be better." And we've started that process of getting people to know, like, and trust because there's nothing better than meeting people. In fact, I go so far as to say the more people you talk to, the more money ends up in your bank. And I'd even expand on that by saying the more people you meet, the more money ends up in your bank. So the first step often is the phone call. The second step might be the Zoom call. I might have a quick conversation with somebody, with Fred on the phone, and then say, look, Fred, it seems as though we might have a few things in common. Perhaps we can help each other in some way, or perhaps even network together. Or, you can come on my podcast and be a guest, or something like that. I'm going to try and get a good reason, if I think it's appropriate, a good reason for me and for Fred and I to meet up. So I might suggest over Zoom. Why don't we meet over Zoom? 20 minutes, half an hour, just to see if there's any other ways we might be able to help each other. Would that be of interest, Fred? Fred says, yeah, we set a meeting up and we've reached that next level. And it might be after that that I say, look, Fred, I'm up in London next week. Why don't we arrange to meet? Perhaps go for a coffee or something like that, or lunch or whatever, or just meet up. Would that be okay? Fred says yes. And now we've got to that level where there's some level of know, like, and trust. Not always. Sometimes Fred might not like me, or I might not like Fred. But the important thing is that we've put the effort in, spent the time getting to a level where, Fred knows, likes, and trust. And that big word here, I think, is trust. Does he believe I can do what I say I can do? That's a really big and important question. And one of the things that I think is, again, often missing from most people's marketing is that word trust, how you prove that you can do. A lot of people say they can do. Oh yeah, I'm a really good, I'm a great accountant, I'm a great solicitor, I'm a really good coach. How do I know? Well, because you say so. Well, you would say so because you're trying to sell me something, aren't you? Yeah, you get the picture here. But if I manage to say utilize testimonials and case studies and video testimonials and video interviews and the written word and the spoken word to convince you that I can do what I can do. Even things like, I can tell you now that I've been doing this being helping, advising, supporting, and helping businesses to grow for 30 years. 30 years. It's actually 30 years on the 1st of May. So that's what, is that what we're 28th of April now. So that's in about what, 3, 4 days, something like that. Is it Wednesday? I think it might be. And that holds a little bit of credibility, doesn't it? There's some proof there that Steve knows what he's doing. If that's true, and it is, if that's true, I wouldn't have been around for 30 years unless I was pretty good at what I do. You get that? Yeah. So anything that you can use that gives you credibility and makes you more believable, we need to use that on social media. If you went to my LinkedIn profile right now, you'd see that I've got over 150 recommendations. 150. How many have you got? Now, it's not that you probably couldn't get 150, but the chances are, if you're like 99% of the businesses that I speak to, you've probably got less than 10. Why? You've probably been in business for a while. You could have a lot more than that. Why haven't you? Because you don't ask. You don't ask for recommendations, and I ask people. If somebody comes along to one of my workshops or signs up to a program, or I meet somebody, or I get them to a level where I believe they know, like, and trust me, I can ask them for a recommendation. And I do. And then I also ask them, would it be okay for me to use that recommendation throughout my marketing? So you perhaps be on my website, on my blogs, on my email, and so on and so forth. Would that be okay? Nobody's ever said no. I also say, I wonder whether you do me a really big favor. Is there any chance of doing a video testimonial for me? And some people go, oh, no, I don't want to do video. And that's fine. And not everybody likes video. I accept that. And some people don't want it. And, you just accept it. And some people do. And that's great. But again, you'll see I've got loads and loads. If you go to my YouTube channel, I've got loads and loads of testimonial videos. And, they're very, very powerful in persuading people that I can do what I say I can do. And what I can do, by the way, is to help you to grow your business. Now, I've learnt my skills in over 30, well, not quite 30 years, as you know, in about 30 years by learning from the world's leading sales and marketing experts. I've basically spent somewhere in the region of £25,000 uh, attending courses, buying online programs, and so on and so forth, and over 100,000 hours learning from the best in the world. And I teach that to my clients. And if you want to become one of them, then go to results-mastery.com. Sign up using one of the yellow buttons. You can book a meeting online on Zoom with me, and we can have a conversation. There won't be any hard sell. There will be some great advice in that meeting because I want to try to demonstrate my expertise and build up my level of you knowing, liking, and trusting me. And that's it. So there's a couple of tips for you. I hope it's been of value, giving you some food for thought in terms of what you need to do on pretty much all your social media. Build those relationships, keep in touch with people, get more people to connect to you, And don't be afraid to pick up that phone and talk to people. We've sometimes, I think, lost the art of that. Everybody's texting and emailing and WhatsApping and something else in. And, wouldn't it be nice just to pick up a phone and talk to another human? I'll leave you on that thought. Thanks very much for listening. Oh, and don't forget, subscribe to my podcast. Go and subscribe to me on YouTube, and you get even more value. Thanks very much for listening.